You're listening to Kevin and the Spleen.
No one's gonna ever love me.
1098.5 Radio QWX. For quick.
Bussin', no cap.
No cap.
Really smack you in the ass with flavor. There you go. This show is about depression, anxiety, PTSD, and chronic illness.
We going quick. Trying to keep you on the path to the ride home on the evening time.
It's a fucking zoo.
Make it Quicks. With the Quicks Radio.
White lives do not matter.
Hey, folks, it's me, the Spleen, coming at you live from the oubliette. Kevin, how you doing? You up here in the oubliette? Or are you coming from a different location?
No, I've always loved the word oubliette. I've always wanted to be in one. So yeah, I think that would be a fantastic vacation.
Well, you got to get up here and listen to the sweet sounds of honking. What the? I think a car's coming, Kevin.
In your oubliette?
Oh, shit, fuck.
Oh, my God. The Spleen just got hit by a car, Kevin.
Wow, that was the fastest intro I think we've ever done.
Yeah, it was. But, you know, sometimes you just got to get through it. I don't know how a car got up there, but, you know, the Spleen is as the Spleen does. We got a great guest for you, folks. We got shit. We didn't ask how to introduce you. Do you want to? Comedian.
Yes. Yeah.
Artist. Talk show host.
Yes.
Yeah. Mary Houlihan is back in the studio. How's it going?
Good. Wait, hold on.
Wow.
Doing pretty good.
Wow. So you got a, what are those called? Soundboards, right? You got a soundboard going on?
Mm-hmm.
We got what are those called? Klaxons? No, that's not klaxons. Those are air horns. Jesus Christ. I think I'm having a problem right now. I can't think straight. Do you have any sound drops for not being able to think straight?
Yes. How about this?
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I love talking about production and, you know, the ins and outs of Hollywood and the system. What are you rocking for this soundboard? Is this a hardware-software combo?
No, this is software. This is Farago.
Mm-hmm.
Farago.
That's Farago the label. I think I spelled it wrong. Okay. Kevin, you got to get a soundboard like that. Kevin has drops that he plays. Kevin, what do you use for your sound drops? You're just clicking files, right?
I have a whole playlist in VLC set up of different things that I can
nice.
like pick from, because I do video and audio. And I need to be able to cut it into different places so I can send it to different outputs and.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. That's the traffic cone app.
Yes.
It's the only streaming app that cares deeply about personal safety. But Kevin, we gotta fix. I don't know. This used to be a theme of ours, talking about Kevin's tech.
Yeah,
but
baby. There's something about Mary.
she's got a soundboard. That's at least one thing about Mary that we know. Who recorded that? Did you get a bunch of people to record you sound drops, or one person to record a bunch?
I hired a guy on Fiverr, and his name, which I assume is not his real name, is Rob Banks.
Man, I used to listen to BBC Radio 1 when I worked at a used book warehouse, and it was great. BBC Britain, they know how to fund the arts over there, and their radio, sure. It's so much better. And there was a DJ that was always on, and his name was Rob DeBank.
That was a great name.
That was his real name, I assume. I didn't look into it, but I don't know. Just free associating on the podcast, folks. It's been over a year since we had you on. It was good to talk to you then. It's good to talk to you now. What's been happening for you? What's been happening for you?
Well, now I live in Los Angeles, and I started a talk show, as you mentioned, and Yeah, just trying to make more comedy videos that, como se dice, I guess they're woke.
Sure.
I guess that's not really what I want to say. You know, it's people talking about how we have to fight billionaires and stuff. And I actually don't want to call it woke, because I would want even Trump voters to find it and be like, yeah, they're making sense.
Yeah, it's almost anti-woke, the content you're making. It does
Dark
seem
woke.
yeah, dark. That's the term. Yes, I keep seeing this popping up, but dark woke. I just well, the last time I heard someone talk about dark woke, they were alluding to saying a slur of some sort, and I was like, I should get better associations than that. But yes, dark woke. I think that's a really interesting hallmark of your content in your push lately, your posts and stuff. It's So dark woke is an interesting word, or two words, but I want to kind of dig into that a little bit, because
Sure.
it does seem like your internet presence. I see your videos, your show, your stream also, but this is maybe more in regards to your posts, maybe your Threads posts. I don't know if they're elsewhere, but there does seem to be a pretty specific through line or theme on your Threads posts that I would imagine is relatively intentional. And would you want to talk about that in a little bit of detail? It seems like you're trying to, I don't know if that bridge the gap is the right word, but try to be pretty even-handed and not simply, I don't know. I think there's like an extent to which leftists complain about liberals, and part of that is this kind of empty, rhetoric-based, buzzword kind of laden political speech. And I think there's maybe an extent that which leftists do a similar thing. I don't think it's maybe as empty, but a similar kind of rhetorical stance maybe. And I think that you're trying to not just default to that and maybe be a little more thoughtful. Is that a decent jumping off point?
Sure, yeah. Well, gosh, where to start? Because I feel like I can really go all over with this. Well, you and I are both people who kind of work in showbiz. We occasionally work in it, and occasionally we work normal jobs. And I have to be honest, during this genocide, it's really been so glaring to me that like everyone I know with a normal job is heartbroken and talking about it and posting about it and liking posts about it. And a lot of showbiz people I know are silent, or I noticed they're kind of like, I don't know if this is really what they're doing or if I'm projecting. I think
you have a perception.
Afraid. Yeah, I think that they're afraid of hurting the feelings of people who are racist against Palestinians. And I want them to snap out of it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I guess that's, I mean, okay, so yeah, I'm really going to go all over the place.
I would love
now.
that. I think that's really exciting.
So these showbiz folks who I'm annoyed at for like sitting on the fence, a lot of them would we might call them liberal, but some of them even would call themselves like leftists or progressives. And this is pretty controversial, but I see some of these people ragging on Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan and saying like, oh, we hate those podcasters. They cost us the election. And I just noticed this really crazy hypocrisy where like, I'm not Theo Vaughn's #1 fan or anything, but Theo Vaughn has interviewed like doctors who worked on kids in Gaza, and I have to listen to some pro-Israel racist asshole like complain about Theo Von. Shut up. Theo Von is better than you.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Like, I feel like people really need to get a grip and stop being so like, we hate anyone that's voted for Trump. We hate, because I just feel like everyone's being a hypocrite and everyone needs to like give in a little bit. Everyone on every side.
So you say the term give in. What I'm hearing is, again, like talking about this like leftist liberal thing is like this ideological purity, but not even ideological purity, but almost a type of refraining that I don't know solves anything versus maybe a desire, or not a desire, or a need to kind of, I don't know. I feel like the way I can say this it might be taken out of context, which great, that'll give me more than one Reddit comment. Because the metaphor I think is incomplete, but I would say get in the mud a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
And
people are kind of afraid of saying the wrong thing. People feel like I'm on this team, so I have to believe everything that this team says.
Right.
And I think people who I felt like I was on their team, I'm like, well, I'm obviously not on your team because you don't mind genocide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess something in particular that like really annoys me about the whole like the podcasters got us here is like, if that's true, if you honestly believe that, what does complaining about it do? It doesn't make people stop listening to them. Mm-hmm. So why don't you just make a podcast or say to all your followers, hey, check out Stavros's show. I really like the guests he has. Like, why don't you encourage people to check out stuff that's good if, like, that's the behavior you want to see?
Yeah, I think, again, talking about, like, the liberal leftist thing, this ideological purity in inability or lack of desire to, like, engage, I think it does what people used to demonize liberals for, which is a kind of empty, shame-based persuasion style, which I think we can all see didn't work, like, at all.
Yeah.
In most ways, I think liberals try to shame, and I'd say like, liberals try to shame leftists, into voting for Biden, into voting for Kamala, into voting for Gavin Newsom. Leftists try to shame people out of supporting candidates, and it's like I just don't think shame works. Go ahead.
Shame definitely doesn't work because the recipient always views the shamer as hypocritical. It's like, how are you saying that I'm doing this bad thing when you're doing that bad thing over there? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough because, like, I think this is something that I've had atrophy in me to an extent that I guess I'd say I'm ashamed of. But I feel like I used to pride myself as, and this is now like a buzzword, a touchy word, but like more of an independent thinker, where I feel like I had a really strong, understandable moral system that I used to engage with the world. And it mostly intersected with like leftist liberal ideas, but here or there it didn't, and I wouldn't feel too bad about it because it's like, well, at the end of the day, I need to make my own decisions. I can't like look up this book of like doctrine to like tell me what to think, because that doesn't exist, not really.
Yeah.
And so like I used to feel okay with that, but I don't know. I think there's a way that hopefully our audience is smart enough to interpret this, in a spirit of good faith. But like, sure. I think there's
I guess like another thing too is like, basically like if we want we need people to do action. Mm-hmm. Shaming doesn't cause action. Encouraging people or just directing them and telling them, hey, you might not know what to do. Here's something you can do will lead to positive change. And so part of like what can be so frustrating about the quote unquote liberal, meaning someone who just says things emptily and doesn't actually do anything, is like they're taking away trans rights in multiple states. And multiple Democrats have bills on their desks that will put trans rights into law, and they're not signing them. Mm-hmm. And so if these people want to like post a picture with a trans flag, I'm like, shut the fuck up and do your job. What are you talking about? Like, I really feel like people need to have more urgency of like, our rights are going away and you guys are kind of like being bamboozled by people saying the right things in public, but not actually doing what needs to get done.
Yeah, I think it's I think that happens in a lot of places. It's hard to, yeah, again, I think my inability to think straight is kind of coming back. But yeah, I think like what you were saying just reminded me of, like, I think rumination and aversion kind of go hand in hand and they don't lead to action. And things that activate those like parts of our brain, those cycles and patterns of our brain, take us away from actually doing something, but they feel very real. They feel very important and they feel like they will lead to something, and they don't. And like, I think optimistically, you know, the kinds of things that you're talking, the kinds of ways that you're talking, the kinds of conversations you're trying to have, the kinds of actions that you're trying to push people towards are not trying to engage with that rumination and aversion that a lot of people naturally have. That comes from a very honest place of fear and insecurity, which is very valid. But isn't solving the problem. It just is a thing that people have to contend with, especially if they want to achieve some sort of agenda, right? And so that's what's so interesting. I don't know. I can't think of anything. You got any more?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, I guess like anti-war is top of mind because, again, it's genocide time, baby. And now we're attacking Iran.
Yep.
You aren't going to accomplish anything anti-war if you're going around saying, Trump voters are so stupid. Trump voters, you did this. I would never talk to a Trump voter. Like, you need a plurality of Americans. And also, like, again, I see libertarians being anti-war, and I see a lot of, hate to use this phrase, Hollywood liberals. I see a lot of Hollywood liberals who are pro-war, frankly. Like,
sure, yeah.
They wouldn't phrase it that way, but they are. So why am I going to, like, pretend those people are on my team, I guess?
Yeah. So something that I have bumped against in the past with ideas like what you're talking about is, like, I do think there are enough non-Republicans to create a lot of political results that benefit us. And I do think there can be somewhat of a trap in trying to convert Republicans when it might be easier to peel off or get commitments to take action or change from, say, more liberal leaning people or maybe more ideologically aligned people. So,
well,
like, do you
think,
go ahead?
The biggest thing is, like, our last presidential election, 65% of eligible people voted. So that's 35% of people did not vote at all. So why are we, like, screaming at Trump voters?
Yes,
it sounds like we should be saying, hey, let's stop the war and let's give everyone health care. And then all those people who never vote will be like, fuck yeah, I'm going to vote for this person who's promising me something.
Yeah, exactly. This reminds me of a Threads argument that, you know, even arguing online is probably something that I shouldn't be doing. But a Threads argument I was having with someone was talking about how, like, they can never compromise with someone who is, like, endorsing genocide. And it's like, I don't need to compromise with that person. I just have to engage them on more economic terms and hopefully convert them there. Like, you don't really have to, like, butt heads on that topic. You don't, like, that's the thing. But I think again, if you talk about like getting in the mud or whatever, I think it's like, well, this feels so bad. Trying to like endure this person is so uncomfortable to me, and earnestly, it cuts against a lot of my ideals, and this person represents a lot of harm being done to people I care about, and I don't know that I want to engage with that. But if you want an agenda to be accomplished, you do have to do things that aren't easy, and I think. Go ahead.
And so here's a hypothetical thing. If someone was like, I don't care about Palestine at all, that doesn't affect me, I wouldn't say, this person's evil, I'm never talking to them. Maybe I would try to talk to that person about, like, we're spending, like, billions of dollars and sending it to other countries. Don't you think, like, we should keep that money here? And, like, I would just try a different tack with them instead of being like, this person's horrible, because like I want to convince people. I don't want to just like yell at people and feel good about myself. I guess that's kind of the thing. I feel like everyone is just, not everyone. A lot of people pat themselves on the back and say, I have the best views. I have the best views. And that's on every side. You see conservatives like that, and you see liberals like that. And being the most right doesn't matter when people's driver's license are, like, getting canceled. You know what I mean? Or people are getting rounded up into camps. Like, at that point, like, why are you bragging about how correct you are?
Right, exactly. It becomes like a thought terminating cliche. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Mary, but I lost 100 pounds twice, 2 separate times. And one of the things that I learned that really helped me, especially is helping me like keep the weight off, is like what did they call it? Positive and negative neuroassociations, because your brain is like associative. It's like it connects things, and that's part of how it thinks. And there's a lot of negative neuroassociations you have relating to your body and health and fitness and eating, or at least, a lot of people have these issues. Not everyone, I'm sure. But if what you do is you eat a cheeseburger and then you beat yourself up over the cheeseburger, what that does is encourages an incentive, or it like ups the chance of you eating another cheeseburger to feel better about yourself, because staying in this negative state kind of keeps you in like this, I need some good feeling hit to like get through this episode I'm having. Whereas not focusing on that, just imagine just not thinking, never shaming myself for a cheeseburger. But if I have broccoli in the morning for breakfast and then I eat a cheeseburger, I'm going to be like, I had broccoli for breakfast. This is so good. That was such a good thing that I did. I should do that again. I walked 2 minutes today. That's awesome. I walked today. I exercised today. And building up these positive neuroassociations actually makes you continue taking the action. And I think there's a way that we can like apply that to this rhetoric thing where like, making someone feel bad. Let's say there's a hypothetical Trump supporter who does feel really bad about what they're doing. And I'm not saying people should like go in good faith, try and convert these people, whatever. But just like for the sake of this explanation, imagine that someone is feeling bad about that. Continuing to shame them isn't going to make them go like, oh, let me go to the gym of wokeism. They're going to feel bad and deal with that shame some other way, maybe by talking to a conservative who helps them reinforce their pre-existing beliefs, and it doesn't do anything for us. And I think similarly for us, like feeling bad about the state of the world isn't going to create action. It's just going to create this negative mental state that makes us do the political or literal equivalent of just eating a cheeseburger. And it's like, well, that's not action. That's not doing organizing or anything. So like, yeah, I think on both sides, like for us on our side and for us on their side, I think both of these cases, like this isn't necessarily a good solution, is to try and activate people's shame centers. Like, I don't think that gets us much.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That whole analogy, yeah.
Yeah, we just got to figure out what a cheeseburger represents in this metaphor.
I guess, like, let's do it. So
let's really dig in.
Eating a cheeseburger could be donating money somewhere. It could be doing some phone banking. It could be joining your local DSA or some other group that is aligned with you. It could be going to church or synagogue or mosque because, well, you know, if you have religious trauma, you don't have to. But these places, they all have, like, food banks. They all have food pantries. They all have some kind of social justice thing happening. So if you're looking for some place to get involved, that might be a good place for you to find something. And yeah, you don't have to, like, save the world. You can just do, like, one little thing.
Yeah. And do it because it'll make you feel better. Start there. But then doing that, you'll find people, you know, Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers. You'll find people that are connected to other groups, and then they can help you get more involved, and you can do more and feel even better and make more of a difference. Maybe you're not making the most difference, you know, at your first, let's say, synagogue food pantry or whatever. At least you might not feel that way. But, you know, you talk to the right people there, and then you go to a protest or like a DSA group or something, and then you start getting more involved, and it helps, and it does concrete things, you know, at least hopefully.
Yeah. That's the broccoli.
Yes.
Because, yeah, okay, so yes, that's the broccoli, and the evil cheeseburger where you're feeling so bad about yourself, I think is when you're, if you're doing fun things online, go for it. But if you're doing a quote-unquote doom scroll where you're saying, look how evil everyone is, look how much horrible stuff is going on, that's going to make you feel bad. If you surround yourself with people who are doing good stuff, you're going to feel encouraged. You're going to feel, like, inspired.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, wow, that's so awesome. This person is doing that.
Yeah, it's important. It's just like, I don't know. I talk about healing fantasies a lot on this show, as told by the book Adult Children of Emotionally Immature People. And since I read that book, like, obviously it applied to my life and a lot of my, like, emotional or personal problems. But, like, one of the things that really clicked for me really fast is how people map that onto political structures. And I think when you talk about accelerationism and stuff, it all feels like just this healing fantasy. I think when leftists are saying, and I don't think they're wrong, but I think when leftists are saying, like, I'm never going to vote for Gavin Newsom, so you better find a different candidate. It's like, well, that is saying if I do the right things, if I say the right words online, then I will be rewarded and validated by my political ideas coming true. And it's like, that's a great fantasy you have, but it actually doesn't solve, like, it doesn't do the thing that you want it to do. Like, you actually have to get involved, you know, and these are the kinds of arguments that I get on online. I'm like, okay, that's great. If you want that to happen, you got to find a different candidate and you got to canvass for them and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and it's not that you can't say, like, I'm not going to do this online, but I do feel that there's a correlation between saying stuff like that online and then not doing anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great point because, like, I don't like Gavin Newsom at all.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like,
he's awful.
You are perfectly explaining the point of view of people who are like, that's so annoying when people complain about it. That, like, that tells me then that, like, okay, a better tack is to say, I love this person. I hope this person runs. You know who I think would be good is Ro Khanna.
What do you like about him?
Well, I think, number one, he's, like, collaborating with Massey, and the two of them are leading the charge on, let's release the Epstein files. Let's have everything just out there so that people don't have to be resorting to conspiracy theories and blah, blah, blah. Let's come on. And if these people did illegal things, let's prosecute them.
There's a concept.
And it's literally what, like, a lot of liberals say they want is, like, someone who's willing to reach across the aisle. Like, he's doing that. And also, it's like he's taking a moral stand. There's probably a lot of people who are like, shut up about that, you know? I'm sure he's not making friends in certain places. And I think that is the kind of thing that would motivate non-voters to come out and vote, because they'd be like, wow, these two guys are working together to try to bring justice to a system that we all think is fucked, and that's why we never vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's interesting. In the interest of radical transparency or whatever, whenever I think of Ro Khanna, I think of him wanting to engage the DOGE under Elon Musk, and I feel like my immediate instinct, and I'm not saying this is right, it's my first like instinct is like I wonder if his lack of discernment there is like indicative of another problem. But I think like
I would have to look into that because I don't really know much about that.
Yeah, I think there's it's like it's nothing new, because like when DOGE was just being pitched before it cut all the science and stuff, like I think there's a lot of people being like, well, yeah, there is a lot of government slop that could be cut. There's like news stories about these like $1,000 muffin baskets that the Pentagon is ordering and stuff. And if we're cutting stuff like that could be good. So I can imagine someone being in a position like that, being like, well, there probably is stuff we can cut. And if I can get in the room and be a voice at the table, maybe, that can be good. But, I think where that breaks down is I think a lot of people just had too much trust of Elon Musk specifically. I think but I think a lot of people have that. But that doesn't preclude me from being willing to support him. The person I think of at the moment right now is JB Pritzker, who I think has a good record or something. But that's not a favorite. But I don't know. I don't know if either of them are going to run. But yeah,
another person I'm interested in is Andy Bashir.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Also, a lot of these people, I'm like, I don't even know if they're like eligible. But he's someone that I think is really good at talking. I think, I guess a lot of my thinking is like, we really need to activate the people that never vote and the people who are like, it's all bullshit, they're both the same. Because, again, that's 35% of people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So he's someone who, has socially progressive views, but he knows how to like communicate it and not like, he's in Kentucky and he's passing laws to protect trans kids. And when he's talking to people, he's not saying like, he's making it make sense to people who might not understand, quote unquote, the trans thing. And these people are like, I don't really get it, but I like him. And like, that's so important because clearly so many people are bad at messaging. Like,
yes,
Donald Trump has won twice. I guess that's also a thing that can be irritating about liberals to other people is like, it almost seems like they're in denial that Trump has beat Democratic candidates twice. Like people are saying like they lost, like this guy shouldn't win. This guy is so bad. And that means that we ran really bad candidates if we let him win. And I feel like sometimes people don't want to hear that because they're like, what? You're saying Trump? It's like, no, I'm saying Trump is bad. I'm saying like we couldn't even run someone charming enough to beat Trump. And that's really crazy.
Yeah, and I think, there was those potential leak documents saying that, this internal DNC report on what happened with the election saying that the genocide was like the determining factor for that, which is why they didn't want that to get out. Yeah. But like, I think it kind of speaks to the fact like that, if they didn't, just I don't even know if they had moral fiber, perhaps.
Yeah.
This could have been very easily avoided to a guy that, by all accounts, shits his pants regularly, which is crazy, Which, if anyone who shits their pants is watching this, you get it. Or you don't, either way, it's fine.
Much respect.
Yes, it's got to be tough, especially if you're a public figure, but yeah, I don't know. But then I guess I also want to say, conspiracy time or whatever. Like, I do feel like there's not zero evidence that they did rig the election too.
Yes, no,
which is
that's
not
true.
to say,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, which is not to say that means that we actually didn't fuck up. Like, no, we did so bad. We did so bad. But it's like that's another confounding factor too. But I think that kind of acts as a balm, or again, like a thought terminating cliche to shut down the thoughts of like, well, we didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, well,
yeah.
A political result. Yeah.
What I meant earlier when I said like everyone needs to give in a little bit, like the leftists need to say, yes, we hear you, that it was probably rigged. That's right. And the liberals need to say, yes, we hear you. We're running candidates who aren't good and like aren't talking straight with people. It's kind of like neither of them, and conservatives do it too. A lot of people are like hesitant to be like, I'm wrong about this or you're right about this. No one wants to do that. And I feel like so much would be solved if people just would do that. And also, that's just how people talk in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like another one of your thrusts too online a lot is like you speak to a mismatch in, let's say, these high-minded ideals / approved rhetoric and political topics versus, and I guess that's part of what dark woke kind of speaks to too, versus like real world people like are closer to gray than they are online when they're like behaving as their public personas. And like, that's something that there seems to be a lot of denial about as well, which is not to say it's like, okay for the left to say like slurs or whatever,
right,
but
yeah.
It's just
it's not about, hey, we should say more slurs. I think it's kind of like, go talk to real people, because I'm suspecting that you guys aren't talking to real people enough, and I don't think you're talking to people of different ages and different cultures enough, because when I'm talking to people, older people say offensive stuff. Also, a lot of quote unquote people of color say offensive stuff.
Right, yeah.
Like, white people tend to be very polite. I know, in certain parts of the country, they're so racist and outlandish. But, like, most white people that I come into contact with are so polite, never say anything wrong. But they might be racist with their actions. They might only have white friends, only live in a white neighborhood type of thing. And so I think people are very stringent on, like, you have to say the right thing all the time. And I'm like, go talk to any Asian 70-year-old. They are going to be extremely racist.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of a lot of work interactions that I have, and it's tough because, there's nice people that are like Fox News brained. Someone swore to me up and down that there's all these paid protesters, and it's like, and it was like, all I could say, like, it's tough because it activates your, you get kind of emotional, and it's hard to like be level-headed and respond to them in like, not that I like am rude and snap at them, but it's like hard to have like the kind of even political discussion that we're having with people when you're like emotionally heightened. And, again, it was like, these protesters are being paid, and I was like, I don't think that's happening. And then he was like, yes, it is. And I was like, I don't think that's happening. And he's like, yes, it is. And I'm like, I don't think that's happening.
Right.
And eventually he was like, well, maybe it's not. But it's like, it was all I could do to just calmly and unemotionally repeat that, like, I simply disagree. Like, I'm not really going to present a case right now. I really don't feel like I'm emotionally available to do that in this moment. But I'm not going to like get mad. I'm just gonna disagree. And I don't think that had a political impact. But then, then there was other opportunities. Like, there's this other old guy I know And he was talking about, the cartel leader just got killed by the Mexican government or something like that. And he was saying, well, they're executing Americans in the streets. And I was like, I don't think that's happening. And he was like, yeah, I heard it on the news. And I was like, I'm gonna look that up and get back to you. But that strikes me as wrong. And I dug into it while he was driving, and I was like, okay, it looks like Laura Loomer said this. And he was like, yeah, they said she said it on the news. And I was like, Laura Loomer is like a famous liar. I'm not seeing any other news outlets reporting this. I'm not seeing any other person saying this. And something I know about Laura Loomer is that she constantly says very false, outlandish things. And it's the kind of thing that I would expect the news media to contextualize. But isn't it so crazy that the news media just puts anything on the news now and doesn't fact check the things that they put on the news? That's really weird. And he was like, yeah, man. And in this interaction, I feel like I convinced him. This guy is maybe closer to liberal than a lot of the old guys. But, even an ostensible kind of understandable, go along to get along kind of person is being affected by these messages too.
Yeah.
And I have been just mentally shut down. This guy's a fucking racist or whatever. But in that moment, I tried to use our shared trust and tried to stay even handed and not call him stupid or anything. And not that this is an amazing way to behave or whatever, but it's just triggering based on what we're talking about is this was something that I feel actually may have broken through a little bit or whatever, and not to say oh, everything's great in Mexico in the immediate aftermath of this cartel guy dying. I'm sure, there's a lot of heightened tensions and stuff, but I don't think they were pulling Americans out and executing them in the streets. I think we'd probably hear more about that if that was happening,
Yeah. I think some of this is just informed by spaces that I'm in. As you know, I went to cosmetology school for a year and I got my cosmetology license. I was the only white person, and I was the wokest person by far. Everyone else was homophobic and saying wild stuff and and you have to spend all your time with these people. So what are you going to do? And be you're so stupid and so wrong. No. There was this one time I remember this girl, she said oh, I was hanging out with this guy and he's gay, which is I don't know, he's my friend's friend, but I was I don't know. And so I just said oh, I really like gay people. A lot of my friends are gay. And then she was oh, okay. I didn't have to make it into you're the worst person, which is how that interaction would go online. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, it happens so much with hair. The lady who does my hair, the last time I saw her, and this was before the Nick Shirley video, she said, oh, did you hear about no, it was after the video because that was the whole, okay. So she said, oh, did you hear this thing in Minneapolis? Oh, there's the fraud is happening. And she's Armenian. And I said to her, I don't really think that's true. Or if there is fraud, it's probably a really small amount of money compared to sometimes a really rich business person commits fraud. And that's a lot more money. And she was oh, when you don't tell the person you're stupid and wrong, what's the matter with you? And you just talk to them normal, they respond with oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's and yeah, we kept talking and I said do you ever have if there's an Armenian business and it looks kind of janky, they don't have a new sign or something, people say oh, this is a mob front, do you ever hear that kind of thing? That's what I think was happening in Minneapolis. They were just being kind of racist. And she was oh, okay. You can see the gears turning. And like my ex, his mom is crazy anti-vax. And so I feel like this also was probably really spurred me into like, oh, I guess I'm good at talking to people. I maybe could share with people how to do it. Because like, I want his mom to take medicine if she gets sick.
Right.
That's my priority.
Right,
This is
yeah.
the person I love, and I don't want them to swear off medicine when it's important. So I'm not going to scream at her and tell her, RFK is a monster and you're brainwashed, because what will that do? That will make her think I'm brainwashed. It'll
Right.
drive her further into what she believes. And so if I can say, oh, you're right that Big Pharma donates to politicians. That's not right. They shouldn't do that. Then I'm acknowledging that something that she believes is true and makes sense. And then I say, but I take medicine all the time. I take Advil for everything and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like there's an extent to which like those blurts that people have, and I don't think this is the true for this woman you're talking about, but I think there's an extent to they don't really connect to their lived experience. Like I think she might, or people like her might take Advil and they don't find any problem with that. It's just like, I'm not talking about Advil. I'm talking about some other part of the medical institution, you know, and they don't necessarily see that.
This woman, she
Yeah.
like supplements, and I also get so worried about her because she seems like she's taking too many supplements. Like she seems like her heart is elevated, and like she seems kind of revved up in a way that I'm like, you need to slow down, please.
Yeah, and all that stuff. It's unregulated. Have you ever listened to the Dream podcast? Mm-mm. Great podcast. Start with the season 1 or whatever if you check it out, listeners. But it kind of gets into like basically the birth of MLMs as a political force has always kind of surrounded supplements, and they've completely like hollowed out a lot of like our government in pursuit of free reign. And MLM is just essentially unfettered capitalism, you know? So it's almost like this pure capitalist structure that has taken over so much of government. And that was like in Bill Clinton's day, you know, and I think like all this stuff is like, it creates these really harmful medicines, or you know, harmful like health situations where people are taking like, you know, they're putting all these adaptogenic mushrooms and everything now. Like
Yes.
those are really dangerous. They contain lead, but they also have weird drug interactions that can send you to the hospital if you take normal prescribed drugs.
Exactly, yeah.
And just drink like a drink that's at the store, at the normal store. Like, and it's just dangerous. And it's dangerous because it's allowed, and it's allowed because of this MLM structure has completely rewritten the rules of like how the FDA operates, you know? And I don't know. I didn't really have anywhere I was going with that.
Yeah, but no, yeah, that was definitely a worry because she would take so many supplements and teas and mushroom coffee, and I would just feel like if you can, at least can we agree that you go to like a doctor who this stuff is their specialty so that you'll trust them, but they'll also tell you that some of these things you shouldn't mix because it seems like maybe you're taking too much of something.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a mess. And just it would have been nicer to say this earlier, but I think what we're talking about with this trying to engage with people, it's simple on some level, but it's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not easy. It's not like anyone. I mean, I think on some level, anyone can kind of learn to do it, but it's not like, oh, anyone could just go out and do this really effectively and feel good about it. It's not, it's not easy necessarily, but you know, like, I think it's something to strive for. It's a, you know, it's a target that we want to try to move closer to. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to caveat that a little bit. Yeah. Let's see. You want to pivot slightly? Maybe we should have pivoted earlier.
Sure.
But I'm just interested in, again, we like to go behind the scenes and talk production and stuff. How did the Mary Houlihan show like come about?
Well, so I was really annoyed at famous people for not quote unquote using their platform. And, and so then I was like, oh, I guess I just have to do it, even though I'm not as famous as them. I guess it's the same thing if there's like 10 of me making stuff like this as it is one famous person making something like this. And so it's a talk show, and I talk to comedians who are left-wing and anti-war, and I talk to grassroots candidates, and I try to, you know, make awesome clips for the candidates and hope that they go viral so that people see how awesome they are. And I interview journalists because I'm really concerned at how many layoffs are happening at news organizations.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I wish like everyone with a platform would do, is like interview journalists, or if that's not really what you do, maybe just repost their stuff, share their stuff with your fan base. Yeah, I think it's so important that like everyone does that. Also because like the media that the right makes is super well funded.
Right. Yeah.
So like we need to operate with the understanding that we have less funding. So we do have to do more sharing, whether that's on social media or just word of mouth, telling your friends about shows that you really like.
More ground game is required, which is like it's tough to outweigh money in politics, but the way you do outweigh it is with volunteering and stuff. And
exactly.
You know, reposting might not feel the same as volunteering, but it's fulfilling the same person of people power instead of dollar power, which, you know, at the end of the day, dollars buy people labor, you know, so like volunteering is kind of like money in that sense. It's just harder to convert, I guess.
Yeah. And like something that I've noticed so much, of course, in the past couple years is like that whole idea of like use your platform. And like it's funny because I, of course, have friends who are not famous at all. I also have friends that are famous. And my friends that are not famous at all, they want famous people to use their platform so bad. And they're right for wanting that. And the famous people I know are like, oh, my DMs are annoying me. So I don't know how to translate it to them that like, can you try to use your platform in a way that suits your voice, perhaps? Or I don't know. I guess something that I liked actually, well, okay, so Robbie Hoffman, I think, is someone who's really fabulous and using her platform well. And she does exactly what we've been talking about this whole time. She'll go on podcast. She'll do Whitney Cummings's podcast. Whereas other people would say, I'd never do her podcast. She's so horrible. But she goes on her podcast and she explains her deal to all of Whitney Cummings fans. And now Whitney Cummings fans are aware of someone who's kind of gender fluid and grew up poor and all of these interesting things that would educate them and make them maybe smarter, maybe more empathetic or something. And so I think that's kind of like a huge mistake that entertainers on the quote-unquote left do, is being like, I would never go on that show. I would never go on that show. And it's like, those are platforms where you could educate people. Why don't you just do it? I actually have a friend who's famous who they told me in private that, like, you know what? I kind of want to go on Joe Rogan. I would be so good at it. I could tell people, like, my story. And then when I asked them about it, like, months later, and I was like, let's do it. Like, let's, like, call... We must know someone who works there.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure.
Let's do it. And they were like, no. You know, suddenly it became real to them. And they were like, my fans are going to send me hate messages. And people are going to be mad at me. They're going to not understand why I'm doing it. And I just thought that was so unfortunate. But something very funny to me that Robbie has said on some of these interviews is like, people tell me to use my platform and they tell me you're a bad person for not posting about Brittany Griner because she's a lesbian. And I'm like, I don't want to. And I thought it was funny that she was just being honest about it.
Yeah.
Because that is what's going on with a lot of these celebrities. So for someone to just say, yeah, I don't want to sometimes, I think is illuminating to people about like how that works, or that they're going to pick and choose things that feel particularly right to them, or they're going to talk. It's not her style to be like free Brittany Griner. It is her style to maybe go do an interview and explain gender fluidity. That's her wheelhouse, and that's fine. I don't know where I want to go next.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. I think it's interesting because, like, I do think there's an extent that people just are scared, and there's like an impotent aspect of that fear. You know, we could call it aversion that isn't helpful. But then there's also probably a very real risk of some issue, and there's not a good way to be able to separate those two things, right? Like, so that's
like
tough.
This person who is afraid to go on Rogan, they're probably right. They probably would lose a ton of fans. Maybe they would lose acting opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just forever they would have a stain on their name that they went on Rogan and Rogan caused Trump and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's why I need to make a podcast myself instead of waiting for other people to do it. And that's also why I need to try to get on Joe Rogan, because people more famous than me don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to risk. Who cares if people are like, ew, I can't believe she went on it.
Yeah. And then I also think there's probably people who might just not be good. Like, it's probably maybe worth it to try here or there. But in some circumstances, it's like, well, I don't know that this person, even if they thought they would, they might not necessarily be a value add. Maybe that's part of like what people are really afraid of in Joe Rogan, is like not doing a good job of selling the ideas that they would imagine themselves wanting to sell, and that causing even more harm. But I don't know if that's helpful either.
I did office hours like a month ago.
Yeah.
And Tim brought up Joe Rogan, and I just said to him, I wish you would go on Joe Rogan and just like talk about the stuff you care about, because he has like 3 million listeners. And he just said very candidly on air, like, I don't know if I feel prepared. Like, I feel like I would want to have stuff in front of me, and that if I really want to make political points, like, I want to make sure I'm getting it right and I'm not sounding stupid or unprepared, basically. And that's fair. And like, this is also interesting. Like, I've had conversations with people about like, who would you have on your show and who would you never have on your show? And sometimes people are like surprised by my answers. Like, I have all this reasoning. Like, I think I would have Tim Dillon on my show because he says things I don't agree with, but he says things I agree with, and I think he means what he says. I would not ever want to talk to Candace Owens, even if it gave me a zillion followers. It's not worth it. I don't think she believes what she says. I think she just says whatever, because she started her career making liberal content, and then she pivoted because, you know, it's more bombastic to be like a black girl saying racist and sexist stuff.
Right.
So that's someone that I don't think anything productive would come out of talking to her.
So what if, for instance, a conservative thought that your show was a much more popular show And so they sent like an email that might have been meant for you or might have been meant for like a larger show that you used to be associated with. Let's say like Roger Stone accidentally sent you an email saying, I want to go on your show and talk about how the election was stolen. Would that be something you would go for?
Was it Roger Stone?
For the folks at home, we did get a letter about that at some point, probably thinking we were Harmontown. Yes. Wanting to come on the show and talk about that. And we joked about how it'd be funny to have him on and just like essentially kind of prank him.
Yes.
And also we were saying that we wouldn't do this, but everyone got and when I say everyone, probably like what, 2 people, got like really mad about like even just us like jokingly talk about the idea that came up very naturally because the email did get in our inbox. It's like, what, we're not going to talk about this on the show?
Right. Yeah. I was talking to Jake Flores about this type of stuff of like, would you have someone problematic just because they're infamous and it would get views? And I was saying like, no, not unless I think something productive would happen. And he said that on his podcast, Pod Damn America, they one time did it. They interviewed McAfee.
Wow. Okay. Yes.
And he said like, in retrospect, I don't know. Like, I don't think it hurt their reputation, but he was like, why did we talk to that guy? Maybe that was not productive.
Yeah, he felt gross about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's valid. I don't think that's wrong, but it's interesting. I don't know. I want to circle back to grinding an axe that I never got around to probably at the beginning of the show, but, talking about how, trying to have conversations in what I would call good faith with people, I would say mostly leftists. I will express an idea that's, not I feel even gross like putting it into these terms because they're so conservative coded, but like not like the party doctrine or whatever. And then they would be all like, well, you're a fucking liberal. And it's like, well, no, I'm not. Like the things that leftists believe, I believe in all those things, and I'm having a disagreement with you.
Yeah. And
that's fine. Like it doesn't like my identity doesn't magically change, and it's just a bummer because I again, good faith, like good faith is like a concept I don't think a lot of people like carry in their conscious minds, but like it's a very powerful tool and it allows you to have conversations with people that are uncomfortable to be around, and maybe even make common ground or make something. But like, I think like part of, this problem with the liberal and leftist, idea, dogma or whatever is like this lack of good faith. And I think it's tough because like our ideas, maybe not every single idea, but like the point of leftism and stuff is that it's right. It's not like we're doing this for money. It's not like we're doing this to get famous. It's not like we're doing this just to fuck around because it's funny. Like we actually are convicted in our beliefs. So we don't necessarily have to engage in bad faith to promote them. And to the extent that we do, we're kind of saying this is a little bit bullshit because like I can't just engage in good faith and expect that to get across the plate, which by all accounts we absolutely can and should, because otherwise we wouldn't be right. These wouldn't be the ideals that we are pushing, right? And it's just like that's the thing I find really frustrating is that it's like, hey man, I'm just engaging in good faith. It's fine if you disagree. It's even fine if you get mad. It's even fine if you get mad at me or insult me or whatever. But at the end of the day, like just recognize that I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to like falsely represent my position just to try and trick you. I'm just trying to have a conversation on the internet. And like it's for you, to this imaginary person, for you, it's turned into something else. And that doesn't seem helpful or good to me.
I think those people might be too, quote unquote, online.
Yes.
And like you mentioned before the show that you were doing some volunteering. And I think in that group, you'll probably meet people who call themselves leftists, but who you can have those conversations with. And they would be coming from a place of, oh, this person's trying to understand my point of view. Or we're trying to reach some sort of understanding. And they would have a more normal human conversation with you.
Yeah.
There's, is there a name for this? I went to some trainings for like union organizing for an arms embargo. And so they gave us like a PowerPoint about like, you know, just the ABCs of organizing. This is probably stuff that some people learn in college courses, but is there a name for this? It's depicted as like a circle with rings. And so the circle overall is about a cause. So in this example, the cause is we want to get an arms embargo so that we don't send weapons overseas. And so at the very center, in the core of that circle, is the people who are the most diehard and they're so committed and working at this all the time. And then as the ring goes out, it's people who are less committed. And, you know, it's not a moral thing. It could be they're super busy. They have kids. And so they're like, oh, I super support this cause, but I really don't have much time. And like the outermost ring is the quote unquote hostile group. This is the group that you go and say, hey, how do you feel about an arms embargo? And they say, Israel has a right. Or if the circle represents just starting a union at your workplace, a hostile person would be someone who says, I heard that unions, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to join a union. I don't want my pay to get lower, blah, 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 blah. That type of person, you just have to say, okay, thanks, never mind, because they're not going to hear what you're saying. And so you just have to move on to the next person. So that online leftist personality type who says, oh my God, you're horrible. I can't believe you, Spencer. You don't have to engage with those people. You could just be like, okay, lost cause. I'm not going to reach any agreement with this person and move on. That's not the person that you're going to have a healthy debate with. And I think that's also just like a thing that more people need to accept, that like certain people are not hospitable to dialogue. And so you just move on in that case.
Yeah, I think on some level that's just having boundaries, like healthy boundaries. I think like what you're talking about, you know, the DSA says this is like, don't argue online. You know, people who say they're part of the DSA and maybe who are way too online are like actively working against their own group's interests and wishes when they do that. And they probably would know that if they went to more meetings and stuff. And, you know, maybe they've gotten past that in terms of what they talk about. But like, and then in terms of canvassing is the same way. They don't want you to argue with someone who is diametrically opposed vocally to that stuff. It's just like move on. And I think that gets to the thing, like we don't need to necessarily convert like an out and out Nazi. We just need to get like what you're saying, these 35% people that are maybe more amenable. And so I think that's about, and it also gets into like a locus of control too, which is like there's things that you can change, there's things that you can't. Getting really crazily upset about things you can't control is just not helpful. So but we probably should have talked about this so much earlier, but you're trying to how do I set this up in a vague way that lets you really set the table? But you're trying to visit another country to do some activism. Is that correct?
Correct. So we have a fundraiser, and because of the rules of getting money to this place that I'm going, we're going to have to talk vaguely. So in this Caribbean region where there is a U.S. inflicted blockade, the people there are having a big rally, and they're inviting journalists from all over the world to come and make content and bring awareness to what's going on there. And so I'm going with a group of journalists and comedians, and we're going to go and make content, and we're going to be working with a local group there. So we won't just be idiot Americans. Like, you know, we're going to have a director telling us, here's what stories we want to tell, and, you know, they'll help us. So I'm paying for my way because of the blockade. Each of us that's going, we're bringing tons and tons of medical aid. And so we have this fundraiser that's not going to cover our travel or our hotels or anything, but anything we raise, we're going to be able to give to people who
people in need who are being
affected.
blockaded. Yeah.
And also we're trying to get some people to go on the mission who couldn't afford to go, so any excess money will be able to use for scholarships. And so the link for that is givesendgo.com/ what is it? I think it's, let me make sure.
Kevin, can you mark this?
Okay. Givesendgo.com / aid and journalism delegation.
/ aid and journalism delegation.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. When I saw when I saw you talking about it, I was really excited. Because I think I think it's really interesting what you're doing. It seems very unique in the space. I mean more broadly, like your talk show, your posts, your videos. I think they're very unique. I think they speak to a very real need and something that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. And it maybe is clear from the way we've been talking about all this stuff in this hour or so, but it's not easy necessarily to figure out how to say it in a way that won't get us canceled or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's important to try and figure out how to do it. It's important to figure out how to talk, how to connect, how to engage, how to activate, how to organize, and I find it really inspiring and really exciting. And this latest project that you're promoting here really was like, God damn, like this is so good. We need 1,000 Marys out there,
It's really awesome because my friend, she tweeted about it and that I'm interested in putting together a group to go do this. Is anyone interested? And my friend sent that to me. So then I reached out to her and was like, hi, remember me? We met a bunch of years ago. I'm totally down. And now we have so many people going, and some of the people I've never met before, but some of them are people that I knew from doing comedy in New York years ago. And it feels like it's really nice that it's people that I know and that we're all yeah, this is something we really care about. And let's try to make it funny or entertaining because that's what we're good at. We should be using it for good.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, I think I want to get more, I shouldn't even say this, but I want to get more involved in organizing at a higher level, because a need that I have identified fucking everywhere is so many people want to do stuff and just simply have no clue. And you can even give them a website and they can even go to the website and they still have no clue. And so it's just I don't know what the solution is, but I think part of it is more opportunities for people to plug in. And I don't even know what that looks like. I think organizers have a better idea of what that looks like, which is why I want to engage with them more and just understand what that process is. But there's so much that can be happening. This friend of yours, this person, they created an opportunity and so many people were I want to be involved in this. And now they are involved in this. And it's I think that's happening fucking everywhere. Or there's people like that waiting to be activated fucking everywhere. And it's doable. I don't know how to do it. I want to learn how to do it. But it starts with a step.
A reason why I was so, all of this, me posting more and making more content, this is all post 2024 election, because I just was I'm so mad at people who didn't use their platform. I'm mad at people who use their platform badly and ineffectively. Mm-hmm. And I noticed so much after the election, people feeling sad and feeling what do I do? People who are 10 years younger than us and aren't we're kind of used to things being bad a little bit.
We haven't had our spirits broken the same, or we're getting over the spirit breaking in a way that
so
it's fresher.
I just noticed this very common refrain oh, I'm so upset. What do I do? What do I do? And people saying, you need to do community organizing. And then I would see people reply, what is that?
No response.
Yes. And then sometimes people would like respond rudely, like,
Yes,
"Oh,
yes,
you
I've had
should
that too.
just-" And it's like, no, that is kind of a vague concept. So make it clear to the person. Tell them, join DSA or join your local church, synagogue, mosque, whatever. There are people, quote unquote, doing the work literally everywhere. So we just need to tell people where it is.
Right.
And okay, well, here's last thing. A thing that my priest says that I love is that you always, at all times, have time, talent, or treasure. Treasure means you just have money to donate. So some people, you don't have to be super active. You could just donate to stuff and support independent journalists. Your treasure is like if you're good at making funny comedy videos, well, try to make them politically educational if you can. And time is just, that could be canvassing. That could be, oh, I'm unemployed right now. I have free time to do phone baking, stuff like that. And yeah, I find that to be like a very encouraging slogan, time, talent, or treasure. And again, is something that keeps you in like the state of mind of like, how do I help? As opposed to everything's so fucked. Oh my God.
Yeah, I just listened to this episode of Radio Lab that is maybe worth a listen. I can't. I think it's about self-esteem. The title might be in self-esteem, but like the idea of self-esteem, like, is this constant self-judgment that's not necessarily super good for mental health, but like the thing that's good is to try and identify causes and things bigger than yourself and focus on what you can do for them, and that makes you feel better. Whereas self-esteem is kind of like you're only as good as like the last success you've had. So if you had a string of bad luck, you're like, oh, I guess I'm a bad person, because if I was good, I would have self-esteem about it, And so yeah, just focusing on causes, things larger than ourselves, things that we can do, ways we can engage. It's good for your brain,
I find also sometimes people that aren't plugged in and like don't know what quote unquote community organizing is, they seem to think of like it's this huge insurmountable thing, but no, you're like a cog. The cause is way bigger than you. You're just a cog. So find your little role, and your role can be super boring. You can like help clean up spreadsheets for a local group that's overwhelmed and needs someone to take over some admin tasks. So many groups like need people to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I had a pithy, buzzer beater to end on, but life doesn't work that way. Waka waka. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was such a great conversation. It's so good to talk to you again. It's cool that you're in LA. Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. Do you have any more formal plugs to take us out?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. Check out my show, The Mary Houlihan Show. It's on YouTube and on podcast apps. And the fundraiser again is givesendgo.com/aid and journalism delegation. Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah, of course. Glad to talk. And Kevin, it's time for the part of the show where you actually talk for once. You got to pull your weight.
Oh no. No, I was really enjoying listening to you guys. You can tell when I'm really enjoying a guest because I just sort of like shut up and just listen to you two talk.
And emote. You've been emoting constantly. It's good to see Kevin emote. Well, that was a bust. Maybe next time Kevin will have something cooler to say. But we like to end the show the same way we do every week. So until next time, Kevin, how do we end the show?
We sign off by saying goodbye, everybody, and see you next week.
Next time we'll really nail this. I promise, guys.